Well, hey everybody, and I want to say welcome to you to the Abnormal Behavior class, Social Work 2331, our online class for the fall semester of 2020. I'm glad that you have joined us in this class. Welcome to you. For those of you who are new to me, my name is Glenn Killian, and I am the Program Director of the Human Services Program at the Lone Star Montgomery campus in the Woodlands. I also teach full-time in that program, and some of you may be new to me, having classes with me. If that's the case, welcome to you. But I know a lot of you I've had before, either in my face-to-face classes or in my online classes, and I just want to say welcome to you as well. I'm glad that you have signed up for this great class. I know there's a lot going on in our world these days, and I hope that you and your family are doing well. I'm glad that you have not let all of the disruptions and all of the distractions that are going on in our world these days to disrupt you from finishing whatever degree you've started, taking classes or whatever it may be. So we are online for most of our classes this fall. And for those of you who are new to online classes, I say welcome to you. You're going to do well. You're going to do great. And my hope is that you learn a lot. So this video is just a little orientation video to kind of get us started and make sure that we are all on the same page. It's a way for me to kind of have a little bit of FaceTime and interaction with you as the students in the class. So let me just make a few announcements as we get going. And let's talk about this. First of all, there has been some confusion in some of the classes about, well, when does this class begin and how long does it go? This particular class is a traditional 16-week online class. We start here in August and we go all the way into December, completely online. You do not have to sign in at a specific or regular time. You can come into the classroom at your convenience. As long as you're getting the work done with the deadlines that you need, well, then you are good to go, so you have that flexibility. A lot of times students will ask me, well, what is the abnormal behavior class? Or sometimes people just refer to this as the abnormal class. I'm not sure if we have any normal classes, but this one is for sure the abnormal class. This class basically is about mental health problems or mental illness. That is something that all of us are familiar with, but it's one of those things, sort of like addiction, that a lot of people don't talk about. But the reality is, mental health struggles and mental illness are real. And if you're going to work in the field of social services, you're going to work with people who have mental health problems. Even if you aren't a mental health counselor, you might work with adults, older adults, or in hospice, or CPS, or the homeless. It doesn't matter who you work with. You're going to work with people with mental health problems. So for that reason, it's important as a student for all of us to be familiar with what do those problems kind of look like? How do they show themselves in people's lives? And that's really what the abnormal behavior class is really about. We're going to go through and talk about some of the most commonly experienced, some of the most commonly diagnosed mental health struggles in our world today. So that way you are familiar with them. You need to be familiar with the names. You need to be familiar with the symptoms. You need to be familiar with how they impact and affect people's lives. And so that's what this class basically is all about, is really mental health struggles, mental health problems. We are going to use in this class the textbook called the DSM-5. Let me show you a picture of the DSM. Here it is right here. Some of you may already be familiar with this book. Because if you've ever worked in the field or volunteered in the field, or if you've ever done your practicum, you might be familiar with the DSM-5. The DSM stands for the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Health Disorders. It's published by the American Psychiatric Association. The 5 means it's the 5th edition. And we're going to talk more about the DSM in module number 1. But the class is kind of built around the DSM. And the DSM-5, I remember being a student many years ago, and I had an interest in being a mental health counselor. And I took a class like this. And I was required to buy, as the textbook, back then what was called the DSM-3. That's how old I am. I came into the field when we were using the DSM-3, the 3rd edition. And I remember taking a class like this, and I still remember how much I learned. And how grateful I was later that I was required to buy the DSM as a textbook, because it was just so helpful for me, number one, as a student, but then also, too, as I got into the field. it was just so helpful for me to know what the DSM is, how we use it in social services, to use it as a reference book, and to use it as a textbook. So you will need the textbook. So go ahead and get you a copy, get you a used copy, an ebook, whatever, however you want to get it. Go ahead and get you through Amazon or wherever a copy of the DSM-5, because you are going to need the textbook. Also, too, I want to make sure that you go into this opening week kind of welcome module where you found this video. Make sure you look at the little brief orientation getting started page that I posted, and make sure you look at the syllabus. One of the things that happens occasionally, it doesn't happen very often, but it does happen occasionally for whatever reason, is in online classes, students just jump right in and they don't take time to look at the syllabus. Just like you would in a live class. You know, the first day of class, we hand out the syllabus, we go over it. We're not going to go over the syllabus in this class. You can read it on your own. But I want to make sure that you take time to go and locate the syllabus, look through the syllabus to get an idea of the deadlines, the timelines, how the class is organized, all of that kind of stuff. Now, I'm not going to go over the syllabus with you line by line, but let me highlight 2 or 3 things for the syllabus for you real quick. Number 1, you'll see in the syllabus my contact information, my email address, my phone number, so that you can get in contact with me. Of course, you can also email me through the D2L classroom. You see some information about the textbook. And what you also see too is you see 8 modules. So we have 8 learning modules that we're going to work our way through, starting this week with module number 1. Module number 1, which opens this week, August the 24th, is open for just 1 week. All of the rest of the modules, modules 2 through 8, are open for 2 weeks. They all open on Monday and they run until they run for 2 weeks in most cases. Modules 2 through 8 run for 2 weeks. But this week's module, module number 1, is open for just 1 week. And so in each module, you can see in module number 1 is very, very characteristic of all of the modules for this class. Every module has some lecture notes, some written notes that I've given to you. There are some videos, little lecture videos like this one. There's a PowerPoint presentation. There are some handouts. There are some websites. There are some other YouTube videos. You're just going to work your way through every single module. And then at the end of every module, there is a homework assignment. So starting this week, module number 1, you have a module 1 homework assignment. Most of the module homework assignments will be due on a Friday. This first one, module number 1, module 1 homework is due next Monday, August the 31st by 12 o'clock noon, middle of the day. Okay, so every module is going to have a homework assignment, and then starting with module number 2, there will also be a quiz. Now, there's no quiz for module 1. There's only a homework assignment, but we'll talk more about this later. When module 2 begins, module 2 through 8, there'll be the lecture notes, the PowerPoint slides, all the little videos. There will be a homework assignment that is due at the end of the module. There will also be a little quiz you're going to do at the end of every single module. So there are 7 quizzes. That's kind of how the class is kind of set up. For those of you who have taken a bunch of online classes, it's going to be really, really simple for you. I've got it real organized and real basic. For those of you who are new to online classes, you're going to pick it up really, really simple and really, really quick, I promise you. So that's how the modules work. Let me also highlight this from the syllabus, and I just mentioned this. In my classes, the magic hour is noon, 12 o'clock p.m. noon, not 12 o'clock a.m. midnight. A lot of times professors have your work due at midnight at the end of the day. In all of my classes, everything is due in the middle of the day, 12 o'clock noon, 12 o'clock p.m. Don't let that get by you. Every once in a while, I'll have a student who will turn something in at 11:30 p.m. thinking that they're on time. Well, they're already 12 hours late, basically, because the due time on every assignment is 12 o'clock noon, not midnight. So just kind of get that into your mind as we kind of head forward and kind of work together as we get classes kind of rolling. So noon, not midnight. Okay, so what you've got this week is you've got module 1 to work on. You've got a little bit of work to kind of review. We're going to be talking about the DSM-5. We're going to be talking a little bit about mental health problems and those kind of things. And you have a brief little homework assignment that's due on August the 31st. Module number 2 will open then next Monday on the 31st. It'll open about 8 o'clock in the morning. And starting with module number 2, you're going to have 2 weeks. We're going to start talking about schizophrenia next week on the 31st. We're going to hit the ground running. As you can tell, we're going to talk about one of the most significant, complicated, interesting mental health struggles, schizophrenia, in module number 1, which opens on the 31st. Also, too, you may see in your syllabus, you're going to do a couple of other written assignments along the way. You're going to do a movie review and analysis later in the semester. And you're also going to do a website review for me in the month of September. And I'll say a little bit more about that later, but be looking for that assignment. I'll post that little written assignment here in just the next day or two. It's due on September the 18th. So it'll be due here in just a few weeks pretty quickly, a very, very basic assignment. But I'll say more about the website review assignment a little bit later. But be looking for that assignment. It's going to be posted and available for you here in just the next few days, and it's due by no later than September the 18th. So a little bit of introduction, a little bit of orientation into our class. Again, I'm glad that you joined us. I said this about almost every single class. This is one of my favorite classes to teach. This was one of the very first classes that I ever taught many, many years ago, back in the dark ages, when I began to teach as an adjunct instructor in the Human Services program. Many years ago, this was one of the first classes they asked me to teach. And so it's always been, in a way, one of my favorites, kind of near and dear to my heart for that reason. We have a lot of good information to cover, a lot of interesting stuff to talk about. Let me know if you need anything. Go ahead and look at Module 1, look at the little lecture video, look at my lecture notes, go through and begin working on Module 1 homework, and I will see you next time. Welcome to class.